end of the symposium. And closing off the symposium would be a very, very special panel on interculturalism versus multiculturalism. And we have a panel of very distinguished speakers today. Before I hand it over to moderator Chiking, I'd just like to put in a plug for the Arts House for our upcoming anniversary in March. We'll be celebrating our 9th anniversary in March, and we have this program, a 3-week-long program called Literally 9, and we'll be celebrating more than 60 writers in Singapore with plays, exhibitions, book launches, and so forth. So please pick up one of our postcards on your way out. It just came from the printers today, so it's really fresh out the store. So please print up and come join us in March. Okay, thank you. And I'll pass it over to Chiking.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for pulling yourself away from coffee and tea to join us in the chamber again. We are on the closing panel of this symposium to look at interculturalism and multiculturalism versus multiculturalism. I would just like to plagiarize from Sharon Siddiqui by saying that we have a distinguished panel here. I shall not introduce each and every one because you have a copy of their biodata printed. But I would just like to briefly, before I present you the panel, briefly start by bring attention to the word inter and multi in the title of this panel. What the two words does is that it suggests a kind of plural in it, and perhaps also a kind of tension, which our panel this morning touched upon, tension between fidelity and accuracy, and also perhaps tension from in politics, political tension, and perhaps also cultural tension that we touch upon this afternoon. So I believe our panel will, in this panel, will sort of more or less focus in this area, and perhaps we could look at what is the dynamics in terms of interculturalism and multiculturalism. And I would also just finally like to highlight on ism, which brings about perhaps ideology, perhaps a kind of belief, as a kind of system. And so, without much ado, I'd just like to introduce our first panelist, Alvin Tan, from the necessary stage.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm just here to share some of the works that we do, and it's what we call intercultural theatre. But when we started in 1987, actually the first impulse was to find our voice, and we kind of started in reaction to a lot of actors going on stage and putting on RP accent and having a slang on stage, and only then you are kind of acting. And that was in 1987 when we started, and we were, Harish is a playwright, and we were literature students, and I was doing sociology and Harish was doing social linguistics. So we were really interested in kind of exploring registers and also the language registers, as well as the different values of the different ethnic cultures that we lived in. There were different cultures and all that, and our actors came from different cultures as well. So we got people together, and then we start to improvise and rehearse, and to kind of explore what are the plays that we can actually put together. And there are all these cultural differences, and that we found very rich, and we wanted to kind of explore that interaction of the culture. I think along the way, we're now about 25 years old, and along the way we found that it is a uniquely Singapore situation for us, because we're not really like Japan or Korea or any other Asian country. We are actually hybridized, or we have an environment which encourages, or it's all right with intercultural marriages. I myself I'm a straight-born Chinese, so I'm already hybridized, not pure, a bit of Chinese, a bit of Malay and some British sensibilities all in the mix. And there's also Eurasians among us, and there are a lot of inter-racial marriages in Singapore, as opposed to like Japan, where you are born Japanese, you cannot become Japanese. So along the way, we found that there were all these differences that we found was interesting to explore. And that's where I started to make a difference between multiculturalism and interculturalism. And that multiculturalism is just recognizing different cultures in a place. And that would be used by tourism board to talk about how vibrant your country is and to attract other people to your country. But whether there's healthy interaction of different cultures, it's a different story. So interculturalism then for me would point towards the interaction of these different cultures and different sensibilities found in these cultures. And that's where we have been actually exploring for some time. I just show you, I think I'll just let you see a piece, Modern Citizens, which deals with
新加坡看起来很像中国，中国看起来很像新加坡，不然就把两个国家合为一个，变成一个富有的国家。浪费这种青春干什么？现在为了怎么样？那有什么好处？ 就是喜欢，因为我们是同类，就蛮乐意的。Aku tahu kamu pikir pada awalnya aku tidak begitu cinta sama dia. Kamu pikir ini semuanya bohong. Tapi semuanya aku lakukan untuk kita, untuk keluarga kita. Aku yakin masa depanku cerah. 未来。 你真的以为你跟那个男人会有未来吗？你又不是笨蛋，你明明知道他们在里面蹲很久的，你也知道你会跟他结婚的。那接下来你有什么打算？继续欺骗你的雇主，一个唯一关心你的人，还是另外找一个新加坡男人呢，要他娶你？Aku datang ke sini untuk bekerja, untuk mencari uang karena aku. Kenapa tidak? Kenapa nggak bisa aku punya sedikit kesenangan? Kenapa nggak bisa aku punya ponsel yang bisa memainkan lagu kegemaranku? Kenapa nggak bisa aku makan daging dan beli pemakan roti dan punya kamar mandi? Kenapa? Aku bertemu dengan seorang lelaki di sini dan walaupun dia hanya pembersih dan walaupun kita tidak bisa menikah, dia telah berjuang untuk aku. Dia berjuang untuk aku. Apa yang suami kamu lakukan untuk kamu? 你滚回去！你不属于这里，他也不属于这里。回去印尼，回去马来西亚，回去，你们全部都回去。你可以在这边工作，可是你不属于这里。新加坡是属于我们华人的，我们的富裕是因为我们华人的本事，而不是因为你们这些人。你要搞清楚。For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Not a cook. Not a cook. 再多多几年，新加坡就会成为中国的首。
Basically, she's from Nanta Education, which is a Chinese educated character. She's the wife of the MP, and the other one is the maid of Peranakan employer. And the play begins with them not being able to talk to each other. And actually, there's a problem in their role. And this was a scene later in the play where we were thinking, what if they could talk to each other? What would they say to each other? And the different sensibilities are contested, and that's what There's another one which we recently did, which is called Best Of. And, no, sorry. Yeah. No, this is not Best Of, sorry. This is October.
I enjoyed that, but my niece will have a cupcake looking for her.
although she speaks in English, some of the English is tempered by the rhythm of how she delivers it. In the past, before our time, a lot of theatre was, the language was a bit, the range was a bit limited because there were a lot of playwrights then who wanted to be post-colonial but were very Anglophile. And they didn't have the confidence yet to use the variety of dialects and languages that we, my generation, benefited from. And we explored all these possible ways of using different dialects, and a Malay speaking Singlish is different from a Chinese speaking Singlish, and we just kind of explored, and all that requires translation. And we
ทำใจให้สงบแล้วว่าจากความคิดทั้งหลายทั้งปวง
ฉันทำไม่ได้เจ้าค่ะ
พยายามคิดโยม
เป็นผู้ชายดีๆนะเจ้าค่ะพอบวชพ่อแม่ไม่ได้จับชายฆ่าหรือขึ้นสวรรค์แต่ผู้หญิงไม่มีทางเลือกอะไรเลยอะนอกจากเป็นลูกจ้างกระจอกในโรงงานบวชเป็นชิป
Okay, basically that was mobile. It was a collaboration with Japan, Thailand, Singapore, Philippines, and we were doing all this intercultural stuff and the different sensibilities because Asian people were moving about the place, and that scene you saw is basically a Thai sex worker who is impregnated by a Japanese married man, and she's in court trying to win her citizenship for the future of the child. So Harish and some of the playwrights went to the court room when we were there, invited by a Filipina who was actually fighting for her citizenship. And then later there's a scene between the wife and the sex worker. And the sex worker speaks Japanese but is Thai accented, and the Japanese wife speaks in the high registered Japanese. What we've been exploring in Singapore, we kind of developed a vocabulary and kind of extrapolated and applied it onto our regional collaboration. And this is something that I think Singapore artists can do. But it requires a lot of translation, and Mobile was done with 4 playwrights, Harish being the head playwright. So the 4 playwrights had to talk through things, and Harish had to, and the subtitles also become important. How do you understand the culture and the lines, and how do you actually translate it to English and bring it across to the audience who's English speaking. And when we restage it in Japan, again we have to go through the subtitles because culturally it's different. There's one play Harish did which is called Off Center. So this is the mother, this is a speech of the mother who has a daughter who is schizophrenic, who has schizophrenia. So I just read it. This country no good, people no good. When I sell food, I wear badge. Smile, I smile. I see Woodbridge doctor. He say how many percent become better, how many percent don't become better. He smile, I smile. I see social worker. She say how many percent take medicine only for a few months, how many percent must take always. If doctor mad, how many percent mother also mad. She smile, I smile. I go home, I see the mirror, I smile, I cannot laugh, I cannot cry because I only know how to smile. I only know how to smile. So this was the courtesy campaign period. So he kind of subverted the idea of smile to be a state of purgatory that the mother is in. But it is Malay way of thinking, but English words are used, and then he has to tweak it again so that it is, so it is an invented thing when we translate it, because it's not just literal translation, it's also social, cultural, and reception theory and stuff like that. So I just want to stop here because I think these are just samples I just wanted to share with you. We're doing intercultural theatre, we do the kind of translation for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would just like to invite the speaker who is from the GOIUS, and he's also a translator.
I want to begin by talking about my confessions. I have two confessions actually. So my first confession is that I have a roving mind. And because I don't want to stray from my points, I'll be reading from the text, so hopefully prepare with the text. My second confession is that as part of my ferocious defense of Singapore Malay literature earlier, I am quite averse to the very ideas of multiculturalism.
As you said, that it's a...
The ism suggests a kind of ideology. And my adversity is because I feel it rehashes the same old diet categories that we are all so used to. And it has made us unimaginative. So, looking at what Alvin has presented, I mean, it's good work. I think it's good work. But I also think it serves to uphold the idea that racial riots will come back again anytime soon. So at the same time, I just want to ask us the question whether we can imagine a different reality. And because if we carry on like this, I think the arts community is the community that can really push forth dissent. But there is a possibility, if we think about it and try to imagine a different reality, that what is seemingly dissenting is actually producing consent. And this is what I want to try to put out. So now I'll present, and I hope you can see the reasons why I'm saying this. Okay. For the past 2 days, we've heard much about the translation industry. As much as this is important, I would like to highlight another aspect of the idea of translation implied by Dan Tang in his opening address yesterday when he asked us to consider if Singapore qualifies as a nation of translators. I found this to be an apt analogy. As such, let us for a moment set aside the idea of translation as an industry and imagine it as a philosophy, a way of thinking about the world as an act of human empowerment. More specifically, I want to briefly explore how philosophizing about translation can help us better understand interculturalism and multiculturalism, of which my stance you already know. To this end, I want to tap into a field of translation theory known as metaphorics. That is the study of the metaphors of translation. Here, the metaphor of rape has been employed in thinking about how translators violate a text for the purpose of upholding his or her, usually pernicious, patriarchal agenda. Translation in this sense has become an oppressive venture. It doesn't become an act of human empowerment. So a good example of this is how Malaysia's National Literature Bureau, the Dewan Bahasa, in their official Malay translation of Saint Samuel Alatas seminal book, The Myth of the Lazy Native, which was originally written in English and translated into Indonesia and then into Malay language. So when the Dewan Bahasa got hold of this book and translated it, they removed all criticisms of unknown. This is rape. In fact, I wrote a paper and I coined the new metaphor called incest because it's done in house. So the metaphor of gender struggle could certainly be relevant to Singapore, but I want to consider a more topical, somewhat pressing analogy, that is immigration, an issue that has quickly came to occupy a central place in the Singapore psyche following the release of the government's white paper on population growth, I think this week. As many in the audience are probably aware, the devil is in the details, and at 6.9 is perhaps too detailed for our comfort. So in particular, I would like to consider two polemical terms that have been expounded in Singapore, namely foreign talents and natives. Let's consider each in turn. What can we learn from thinking about non-Singaporean texts as foreign talents? Based on the sessions I've attended, my sense is that Singapore should welcome foreign texts and the ideas contained within them. To reiterate Max Lane's point, Max Lane is not here because it's at Hong Kong. Singapore could indeed be a hub for texts and ideas, especially related to the ASEAN region. This is in fact not something new to us. In the early 20th century, Singapore can be considered as the center of Islamic reformism in the Malay archipelago. The Little Red Dots was the base from which a group of Muslim activists under the leadership of Syed Sheikh Ahmad Al-Hadi from Malacca and Tahir Jalaluddin from West Sumatra actually published a very popular journal called the Al-Imam Journal, which mimicked and translated contents from the renowned Islamic journal based in Egypt, published called Al-Manar, and this was published by Rashid Rida, who was a very well-known Islamic reformist at that point in time, in the early 20th century. If we can learn anything from the case of Al-Imam, is that Singapore must not be averse to textual foreign talents. In fact, the target of 6 embracing non-Singaporean texts, we must also heed the warning of hegemony, and this has been said over and over in this conference. That is the hegemony of Anglophone texts. We must avoid the pitfall of thinking that good literature only comes from the US and the UK. Singaporeans should be made aware that literature should aptly capture the conditions. In this sense, important works written by Singaporeans must be translated and taught in schools, and this is why I defended Singapore literature from Surahman Mahasan and others, so to the texts from around the region. But does this mean that Singapore should be averse to literature outside ASEAN? It was implied yesterday that an African or a British text has little to say about our condition. For those who think this way, I must respectfully beg to differ. Despite growing up as Malay Singaporean, I could identify with the plight of the Nigerian tribesman of Congo in Chimoa Achebe's Things Fall Apart, as he saw his traditional Igbo way of life incrementally disappearing because of the rapid pace of change brought upon by English colonialists. I also empathize with the monstrous elegant in Shakespeare's The Tempest, who was made to speak the language of his master Prospero. I think this is a very important point for translation studies. I empathize with Okonko, I empathize with Caliban, but I also empathize with the Malay characters who fear that their kampung will be torn down, as I translate Lorong Bangkok, a musical by the local playwright Rani Putra about the last Malay village in Singapore. Which leads me to my next metaphor, the natives. Based on the figure of 6.9 million, before the figure of 6.9 million was raised, members of the Malay community, and to a certain extent the Indians, felt themselves marginalized. This was especially prevalent for the Malays because of the idea of nativization, a concept supported by the assumption that the land was originally theirs, an idea that is enshrined constitutionally in Section 152, which upholds the special position of the Malay as Singapore's indigenous race. But the idea of the indigenous race in Singapore is changing. With a target of 6.9 million, everyone is minoritized. We are all Malays who are entitled to claim native rights. In fact, this only goes to show how much of a social construct the idea of the native is. An idea that translation theory supports if we consider debates about the original versus the copy. Increasingly, translation scholars are finding it tenuous to uphold the idea of the original. Translations certainly differ from the source text, but the source text itself could be a translation, even a rehashing. And I'll give you a case in point. Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book and Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. They were supposed to have been influenced by a medieval Islamic text called by Ibn Tufayl from Andalusia or Hayal Ibn Yazan. So this is a text about a pharaoh child growing up and how he experienced life. So we see parts of that in Kipling and also in Defoe. How can polemics of foreign talents and native culture and translation metaphors help us understand interculturalism and multiculturalism? First, I believe the metaphor of foreign talents effectively decenters Singapore's philosophy of economic pragmatism. Here, I'm not just referring to the establishment's view of economic pragmatism. We are all very well aware of that. I'm actually talking about the economic pragmatism as it is internalized, and it has become, it's very easy to blame the establishment and blame it, but let's be self-reflective and translate ourselves. I would like to consider our sense of entrenched economic pragmatism, and this has been delineated by our desire to establish a translation industry. There is no doubting that Singapore needs a flurry of translation initiatives, but we must also bear in mind that the industrialization of translation also connotes the viewing of text as commodities towards the goal of profit making. Perhaps in thinking of immigration and translation, we should move away from the idea of foreign talents and see the radically other as alternate selves. I believe if we look hard enough in exotic texts that are seemingly worlds apart from us, even if they were, we'll find something that we can identify with, even if they were set in a pre-colonial Nigerian village. Meanwhile, the unstable idea of the native challenges another much more internalized assumption about among Singaporeans, that of racialization. Here I would like to refer to Max Lane again, who's not here, observation that there is no Singapore nation because of our literary ethnic ghettos, in which the Malays write for the Malays, the Chinese for the Chinese, the Tamils for the Tamils, and the English educated for the colonial and upper class. In truth, the division between ethnicities, I believe, are artificial, and I would contend so to the boundaries between nationalities. The elimination of ethnic ghettos is surely a good thing. On the one hand, it enhances the sense of national identity, that we are all Singaporeans, there is no division between the different communities. On other paradoxically also destabilizes the parochial impulses of nationalism, because translation is an intercultural act in the first place. If we put aside our race-related classes, and we can in fact see that the Malay is actually the Chinese and also the Filipino. In this sense, translation encourages the proliferation of world literature, the idea that literature produced here has value elsewhere, more than national literature. In a sense, you find the universal in the particular. In case this presentation has been incomprehensible, I would like to summarize my points now through a shortened version of the graphic novel by the illustrator Sean Tan from Australia, because I couldn't find the text here that I could really use. Sean Tan is the son of a migrant from Malaysia. And I look forward to a fruitful discussion, but meanwhile, here's Eric. Thank you very much.
I think it's very apt that earlier on Elvin showed us, show us the interaction aspects and brought us to interactive aspects of translation, and then now as we brought us further deeper into the dynamics and alert us to the borders that are operating. And talking about borders, I was looking through our next speaker, Atina's CV, and I realized that although we look very, very different, we do share a very common history that both of us have lived with NIE and also the Straits Times. And without much ado, I'd just like to introduce you to our next speaker, Atina.
I will also be